It appears that Charlie Kirk's friend, Andrew Kolvet, has come forward in a recent interview to basically confirm some of the things that the Gray Zone said in that article that were happening behind the scenes for Charlie Kirk. Now, they don't confirm everything, but I think you guys need to hear some of what is said here, because I think that this is important. This conversation took place. I think the channel is, one second. It's called Real Alex Clark. Someone sent this to me. So Andrew Kolvet, he worked with Charlie Kirk from Turning Point USA. Also, someone's very close to him. I want you to hear what he said was happening behind the scenes.
Behind the scenes.
It's interesting because there's been a lot of people who don't know what they're talking about, saying a lot of things about this issue. And, on the one hand, I love it because you've got the pro-Israel side claiming him, and you've got the anti-Israel side claiming him now, which is a posthumous thing. But I think that's interesting. You got the Catholics claiming him and the evangelicals claiming him. And
was he becoming Catholic?
No, but he really loved Catholic Mass. He loved the ritual of it. He loved the beauty of old Catholic churches and the stained glass. And
him and Erica would go sometimes.
Yeah, well, Erica's a cradle Catholic, but she ended up kind of like me. I grew up Catholic and First Communion and went to Catholic high school. But then I ended up becoming a Christian in college through a Protestant church, through a non-denominational kind of more experience. It was actually Presbyterian, and then it was kind of non-denominational. And
pause. So this I found to be very interesting because friends of mine that grew up Catholic, I only went to Mass twice in my life. One was for my friend's mom's funeral, and it was a funeral, but there was also like Mass. And another one was when like my roommate asked me to go with her, and I didn't know what I was doing. Like she didn't prepare me for like, it's different. Like there's certain processes you have to go through like during Mass. And if you're not Catholic, you won't know what to do. Like it's that kind of thing. But like she didn't tell me. Anyway, that was kind of interesting to hear because from my experience, Mass wasn't something that you just kind of go to just because you kind of like it. From my experience, like I said, like there's certain like procedures and like that you follow throughout Mass. And so, yeah, somebody knows, under kneel, stand, sit, kneel. Exactly. So to me, it almost sounds like maybe he may have been interested in going in that direction, but Catholicism is a little bit different than like going to a Methodist church on Sunday or going to the non-denominational like Protestant churches on Sunday. It's a little bit different. And it's interesting that he's saying he was just going just because he liked going sometimes. To me, that almost sounds like he might have been interested in converting. That's kind of how I see it.
I think Erica kind of follows that same path. She and I share that.
Also, by the way, I just want to draw attention to, she's posted a photo of her and Charlie and the kids in Mass before, and somebody in the comment section said, "Oh, are you guys converting?" And she said, "No, we just like attending sometimes." So she herself had said no.
Yeah,
publicly.
and I think Charlie, one of the things, Charlie really hated worshiping in like a gym, or some sort of kind of blank space that you just turn into church. There's no problem. He didn't have a problem with the act of that. He just didn't prefer it. And he loved, again, the ritual, the ancient, feel of a Catholic Mass, and the fact that everybody around the world that was worshiping as Catholic, he loved that. So he had some really big theological hangups with that. You can go check the videos out, him debating with Michael Knowles, in good fun. I mean, they were dear friends, but they loved kind of debating the whole Protestant versus Catholic thing.
So tensions were rising in the movement. This is not news to anybody. If you are participating in the movement, you see it with your own eyes. You see it on X if you live online like we do. And Charlie was aware of it.
Oh, yeah.
I will say, as far as the rumors go, for donor pressures and all of that, and you can tell me if I'm wrong. Internally, what I noticed was, yes, he was getting pressure about having Tucker speak. There were people angry that we were allowing Tucker to speak. He wanted to double down and said, "I don't care that people are mad. I have tons of different ideologies on this stage, religions, viewpoints within the conservative movement. Everybody's welcome. I want everybody to have a chance to share their ideas." And That's the only pressure I know of as far as.
Talk about so much for free speech, right? Like, it's really weird when you hear people say this today, because Tucker Carlson is like this really big name. He's been around for a long time, and it feels kind of weird, even though he's not with Fox News anymore. It just feels kind of weird to hear someone say on the right that they didn't want Tucker Carlson to speak at an event. It's weird. Like, I feel like that's something I would hear from people on the left. Does that sound weird to you guys? It's still just kind of bizarre to me.
Donor pressure that he ever received recently.
A couple things that's worth clarifying. You know, and you asked me this earlier, so let me make sure I'd say it. Charlie's position on Israel was very clear. I like them more than I like Hamas. I just wish I was free to criticize Israel and not be labeled an anti-Semite, because I can criticize my own government and not be called anti-American.
Right.
But why do I have more freedom to do, that and not criticize, a foreign government?
Because you're on the right. Because you're a part of the Republican Party. This is another thing, because of the evangelicals. You guys know that there's more Christian Zionists in the U.S. than Jewish Zionists. I hope everybody's aware of that. So that pressure that comes from the evangelical Christian side, that's why that's why in conservative like politics, that's a no. Now, don't get me wrong. You got like Democrat politicians who are like, no, don't criticize Israel either. But most of the criticism for Israel historically has been, on the Democrat side, right? Or those who are not politically aligned at all. But because of the evangelical Christians, people like Mike Huckabee, et cetera, because of the end times, like, the narrative scripture, whatever you want to call it, it's not as accepted on the right. So it's just kind of like, it's one of those things. It's like being a Democrat and not being pro-choice. It's like being a Democrat and being pro-life. It's not as accepted in that space. There are a few that are, like Tim Kaine was pro-life. That was Hillary Clinton's running mate, not Miss Free the Women. He was pro-life. And Henry Cuellar, Representative Henry Cuellar, is also pro-life. But it's not as welcomed. You know what I mean? So that's the thing about being on that side of the aisle. You can't like cross the evangelicals, and they're some of the biggest Zionists. In fact, I know we keep talking about AIPAC, but people also need to talk about Kufi. Now that's the Christian organization that donates and money to Israel, raises all that money for Israel. And from what I understand, they raise more money for Israel than AIPAC does. That's why.
And he was really upset that there was this sort of clampdown on the freedom of expression, the freedom of ideas, free speech when it came to a foreign government. And I will say this, he felt like he had earned the right as a friend of the Jewish people over the years and all of the things that he had done. He felt like his bona fides in that respect were unassailable, and that he should have the freedom to say, hey, it's time to end the war. Hey, it's time to stop the killing. But, when with Tucker, for example, we took some pushback. We lost some donors. And what's interesting is it wasn't necessarily Jewish donors, although there was, because that's a misconception about Turning Point's funding base, by the way, is, it's not a whole lot of Jewish donors. It's just not. There was always, I saw the comments online like, oh, the Jewish shekels or something like, it's all this gross stuff. It just wasn't true.
This part to me here was very weird, because the articles from the Gray Zone said Zionist donors. I find it very strange that Andrew Kolvet came in here and he said Jewish donors. We're not talking about the same thing. Like I told you, the majority of Zionists in the United States are Christian Zionists. So why does Andrew lead with that? it's kind of weird. It's like he's trying to tell people, well, Charlie was starting to feel a little bit differently behind the scenes. But at the same time, it's like he's also still trying to make sure he does the bidding of Israel. Like, let's push back and let people know Turning Point doesn't have a lot of Jewish. I don't remember the Gray Zone article saying that. I remember it saying Zionists. I feel like he's kind of exposing himself here a little bit. But what he does confirm is that, yeah, they lost. They were losing donors because of who he chose to bring out, Tucker Carlson, because he was feeling differently in certain ways. So that also backs up what the Gray Zone article reported.
And it isn't true. But we did lose, one in particular towards the end that was frustrating. There's this great clip when we were in Myrtle Beach, and he got asked if, from somebody in the audience, if he was going to, debate Candace or, disavow Tucker. And Charlie's answer I thought was amazing. I remember he came off stage. He was like, "Do you like that one?" And I was like,
he would always ask that for reassurance.
Yeah. He always loved like, "Did you see that? Did you listen?
Yeah. Do I look good? Was that a good clip? Do you think that'll go viral?"
Yeah. And I remember saying like, "Yeah, I thought it was amazing. It was morally so crystal clear." And he basically said, "I don't appreciate being morally blackmailed." And and every time people would say that to him, he would dig his heels in. It's like, well, maybe Tucker's going to give 2 speeches now at AmFest.
Yeah.
Or maybe I'll invite so and so.
That was one thing. Like,
here's that thing again about the blackmail, right? Which is also something that was mentioned in one of the Gray Zone articles. I think it was either the first or the second one about the blackmail. What were they trying to blackmail him about? What was this big secret that could not get out? So now Andrew Kolvet is confirming as well that Charlie Kirk said to him he doesn't appreciate people trying to blackmail him. Blackmail him about what, though? What is the secret? Shazmatica says, pageant queen, well-connected, ideal candidate for a traditional wife persona. Yeah, I remember. I think I saw that his wife was in beauty pageants.
Charlie and I relate to him so much is that him and I both do that where we don't like being told what to do.
Oh, I've noticed that before.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, Andrew, I'm like, there's so many things that we could talk about. How many times that Andrew and Charlie have had to put out fires for me that I've started. But like, yeah, when I'm told I can't do something, it's like, well, I'm going to do it even harder then. That's just my personality. Mm-hmm. Charlie is very much the same way.
I think that's the key. It's like Charlie was a friend of the Jewish people and a friend of Israel. Did he have opinions about the prosecution of the war, he thought their PR was abysmal, thought they were doing more harm than good in many ways for their own cause. So all of those things were true. And he was upset that he couldn't express those things freely without all of this pressure coming down on the organization. He has a lot of great Jewish friends. And
why does he keep saying this? Why does he keep saying he has a lot of great? It's almost as though he feels like he has to come out and do some type of damage control. Do you guys get that impression? That's the impression that I'm getting from him. It's just like, I don't know. It's like someone coming out there saying, listen, she has a lot of great Black friends, and one of her coworkers was Black, and there's a neighbor down the street in her neighborhood that is Black, and it's just weird, right? Now, to this point here that he makes, that he says that he did like Israel, I just want to show you. We'll come back to this because we do have to be clear. A lot of us remember this when he was talking about Gaza. Listen to this.
So, it's funny. I used to say that, hey, if you as a gay person would go to Gaza, they'd throw you off of tall buildings, right? Now they don't have any tall buildings left, so I don't.
When you mess with the bull, you get the horns.
Is that too soon? I'm sorry. Maybe you shouldn't kill Jews, stupid Muslims.
So that's the Charlie Kirk that many of us were familiar with. So was that how he really felt? Was that scripted? Was he told to say those things? That's brutal. That's really brutal. And demonizing Muslim people, that's not Christian-like. That's the thing that, kind of killed me about, like with Christianity and the way that I kind of felt, about the church as a whole. It's just like, they would always talk about like the Christian way and how you're supposed to treat people as Christians. But apparently some groups of people, it was okay for you to demonize. That was the thing I never really understood. Let's continue on here.
And some people that maybe some not so good ones, right? But I think it's just a nuanced thing.
Was Charlie offered $150 million from Israel?
As far as I know, no.
I had never heard anything like that. Everyone I've asked has said the same thing.
And by the way, just
as far as he knows, no. But do you think Charlie Kirk would have told them that? Considering how people freaked out about him inviting Tucker Carlson to speak? Just something to think about. People don't tell you everything.
For what it's worth, it doesn't matter the amount that would have been coming down. We would have said no.
And there's evidence that is true.
Turning Point does not, Charlie would not accept foreign money.
Exactly.
We only took American money.
Yeah.
There was money sent to us, like practically in multiple instances where they're trying to cram it down our bank account. And we said no. We canceled like money wires and things.
No foreign money, and also no handouts from the government. During the pandemic, 100%. He refused to do mass layoffs that everybody else in the country was doing. Said no to the whatever that check was. What was that they were handing out? Stimulus check.
Yeah. The PPE loans, right? I always get PPP and PPE mixed up, but yeah.
But it was a good amount of money that at the time we could have used.
Yeah.
He put out a company statement saying, this was tempting for sure, but we're going to say no.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very principled in that way.
He was extremely principled, especially on foreign money. I remember moments we'd be at like an event, and some foreign people would come up and like demand a meeting or try and get a meeting with Charlie, and Charlie would look at me and go, deal with them, get rid of them. Like, just, I don't want to talk to them. So I often had the job of
being the bad guy
and say, I'm so sorry, Charlie's schedule's busy. And, it's unfortunate. We just can't fit you in. Oh, well, here's my card, please. Let's, and I mean, on one occasion when that happened, a couple of years later, those people we saw him in the news and they got arrested, and he texted me. He's like, see, I knew it. My spidey sense could feel it. And Charlie did have a spidey sense for who he could trust and who he couldn't trust. And, in this business, there's a lot of shady people that will try and insinuate themselves into your circle, into your orbit. And you have to be as wide as a serpent and as gentle as a dove. And you have to be able to really assess people's motives and cross-check things. And Charlie was the best at that.
Have you guys...
So talking about assessing people's motives and cross-checking things, does that include money from Bill Ackman? I noticed he kept focusing so much on foreign money, never taking foreign money, never, like that type of thing. And it's like, but there are Zionist donors right here in the United States. So see, two things can be true at the same time, because if Andrew tells you that they were against taking foreign money, that can be true. But it can also be true that you were still taking money from rich Zionist donors who live right here in the United States, like Bill Ackman. So just pay attention to the way that this conversation is going. It's just kind of weird to me, like how quickly he came out. Also, I also think it's a little bit weird, and maybe, I don't know. Maybe I grieve longer than others. I found it kind of weird how Andrew, Kolvet, Ben Shapiro, and that guy with the beard who I don't like, Matt Walsh, I think he was one of the ones. I found it kind of weird how, like, just like that, after Charlie Kirk's death, they took up the microphone that quick on his show. Because to me, I'm just kind of like, No time to grieve. I found that kind of weird. It's just like, like they're just like, oh, the show must go on. I found it weird how Ben Shapiro's just like, I'm taking up the mantle and I'm going to do Charlie Kirk's job now. I was like, damn, that was fast. Like, it's very interesting.
Had a conversation, on the board and just C-level executives of the company. Have you guys talked to Eric about that? Just like looking out for opportunists that are going to be circling around her at this point?
I don't think I need to tell Erica that. Yeah. Erica is very shrewd. She's very smart. She's very sharp. There's a great story. I can't really tell you who this was, but.
So they're talking about prepping Erica for opportunists, right? So then it gets into the whole Erica stuff. But that was the part I wanted you guys to hear about. I'm just making sure I'm not skipping the other part. Yeah. The cameras. We got to get to the cameras. I'm sorry. I can't skip that
Devastating wound.
Why did our team start taking down cameras immediately? Was it just in shock and just thinking like, this is what we do and just not thinking it's a crime scene?
I think massive shock. I think there's been some stories about the SD cards or whatever. That was because even in the shock, there was an understanding that the proximity of those cameras were going to be evidence, and they wanted to make sure that it didn't get stolen out of the cameras. But B, they didn't want anybody to run in. I mean, there was those videos of the kid running and grabbing the hats.
Yeah.
So there was an understanding. I mean, I talked to the team on that, and they said, because we know people can be evil.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. When people are under shock, I don't think the first thing that's going through your mind is, let me pull down this camera. I think, especially after something like that happened, it's either to, let's try to help the person that was just shot, or your initial response may be to run. And what struck me very odd about watching that footage is that guy's initial response, the guy who took the camera down, was to, let's take this camera down out of the way. That was very weird to me. The calmness of that guy was weird to me. Just kind of strange. Like, I don't know. Like, how is that the first thing that goes through your mind? I mean, it's almost as if nothing. I'm not going to go there, but I just can't imagine how you could be that calm and that's the first thing that goes through your mind is, let me take down the camera. I just can't imagine that. And to me, it's almost like you knew. Let me go on. Let me go on before I get in trouble.
They grabbed the SD card so that nobody could get that footage.
So that law enforcement could get it.
Did I answer your Maha question sufficiently? Yeah. Okay. He loved Maha.
Well,
he loved Maha moms too. He thought that Maha was the most underappreciated and the.
Do you see how he flipped it there? I don't know if they edited this or not, but she was like, law enforcement of the cameras. And then he brought up Maha again. I don't know, you guys. I don't know. This whole thing to me is just very weird. And the way I kind of feel about it is this. The reaction, the way everything went down. Like if you're at an outdoor event and someone gets shot right in front of you, the first thing that goes through your mind is, let me take the camera down. I don't think I'll ever understand that. I don't think I'll ever understand it. Hey guys, this was a Sabby clip. If you like what you saw, hit that like button and subscribe.